Yeah, it is. Well, we're going to switch gears, and you and I we'll come back to some football talk at the bottom of the hour. We want to bring in our next guest because there's some stuff going over on the West Side, and it's a sad day. Man, let's bring out our guest. He's a good friend of the program. He works at the Rink.com. You can find him on Twitter, and this Jason is probably the best freaking Twitter handle ever. I tell him that every time. He's probably sick of it. It's called Puckin' Hostile. I freaking love it. I love it. I freaking love it. Let's bring out Jeff Osborn. Jeff, what's up, Papa? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Jeff.
You know what? I'm torn, man. I'm torn. I'm fired up about that Bears victory. You see, I'm decked out. So this shirt is 4-1 for me this season. This shirt is 4-1. So I'm gonna go wash it after the show, fold it. It's got a nice little 9-day rest, and then we'll put it back on against the Carolina Panthers. So I'm feeling good. And then we get the news yesterday. I'm talking to Ivan, and it comes across the wire. Stan Bowman had come out and said that they are not going to sign Corey Crawford, ending the Crawford era here in Chicago. Give me your thoughts when you heard. And I know we all kind of figured, okay, he might not come back, but when it's done deal and it's official, it's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, this was a long time coming. Unfortunately, he's going to be 36 years old on New Year's Eve. He's had several, bouts with post-concussion syndrome. Some of the, 9 months at a time he was off. He's got to that point where he's more injury prone and he's more of a risk to the organization, because if you count on him being your starting goalie for the entire year and then he misses a month, 2 months, whatever, especially in this condensed season that's going to be coming up, like, you can't count on that. And, unless he's going to take some kind of like real bargain basement deal, which he didn't. The Blackhawks wanted to give him, $3.5 million, which is pretty bargain basement for a starting goalie in the NHL. Corey Crawford didn't want it, so they did the right thing by walking away with that. Unfortunately, it hurts. I love Corey Crawford as much as anybody does, and I'm a borderline Corey Crawford apologist. But at this point, that business is business, and this is what you got to do to move forward.
It was tough, and I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. I understand it completely, and I've always wanted him to retire, but I didn't want him to come back this past season.
Yep.
Right. I'm just like, look, dude, you got a little kid. I think it's 2 kids now.
Yeah,
I'm like, just be a dad.
Yep.
Let's go home, be a dad. You got money. You made 30 or $40 million. He made in his contract. So you're good. You're not like some NBA or NFL players who's going to go broke. You're good. You're good. Just be a dad. Go in some studio pre and post game show. Cause I tell you what, they would love to have him on NBC Sports Chicago. You know what I mean? So he's going to be around the game. And because that was exactly what you said, man. I didn't want to get him or have him get another concussion, and now he's a vegetable, and he's got 2 kids to raise. Because that's real talk. Because hockey is finite. Playing sports professionally is finite. Being a dad, being a family man, that's something different. So I didn't want him to play this year, but what he did, man, he came up pretty well. So it was tough to see him go, because obviously we go back to 13, we go back to 15, even back to 10, but he was in that in 13 and 15, and we just him cursing at the rallies. We just so much good times, and the old saying, all good things must come to an end, and unfortunately the Corey Crawford era did. So where does that leave us? This is what pisses me off. I'm mad at Bowman, and maybe tell me if my anger is misplaced. You had Robin Lehner. He wasn't that good, just a Vezina finalist. And you trade him, and you're just going to rely on Colin Delia?
Yeah, right now, you caught me at a really good time, especially for the NHL, because free agency just opened at 11 o'clock.
Yep.
So I'm like, if you see my eyes going sideways, it's because I'm watching to see if anything gets announced. What was announced before the actual before it actually opened up was that Malcolm Subban he wasn't qualified for his restricted free agency contract, but they did sign him as an unrestricted free agent. They're going to save less than $100,000 on doing it that way. So I don't know why they really did it, but they did. But so right now you have Malcolm Subban, who I'm not really high on. He's
PK's little brother.
Yeah, it is. And he hasn't done anything in the NHL. He's spent several years with the Bruins, and he was a first round draft pick, but he spent several years with the Bruins, didn't really do anything there. He was kind of thrown away, ended up with the Vegas Golden Knights. They wanted to use him as a backup for Marc-Andre Fleury, and then he really didn't do well there when Fleury got hurt and he was thrown into the mix, and then he got hurt, and that was a whole mess back then. But he really hasn't shown anything in the NHL. He's played very little for the Blackhawks. I think he played a minute and a half or something for the Blackhawks. And so, I mean, this is what you have. You have 3 backup goalies, one of which has never seen the NHL, and Kevin Lankinen, and Colin Delia and Malcolm Subban, who have probably combined under 60 games in the NHL as far as experience goes. So I don't think that you can go out and expect either one of those guys to be the number one goalie behind a team that has really bad defense.
Swiss cheese defense. They played very well.
Yeah, and like especially Delia, you know, he might be a good NHL starter someday, but to throw him from the AHL right into a starter's job in the NHL behind a bad defense is not a good plan. He's going to get beat up. He's going to get hurt, you know, whatever. He's going to get hurt. He's just going to get shelled every night. I mean, Crawford and Leonard both last year got shelled and barely held the Blackhawks together. They didn't even qualify for the playoffs. I mean, that mercy invite that they got, I mean, that they didn't qualify when the season ended. They were not a playoff team, and they had 2 of the better goalies in the NHL playing for them. So if you go backwards and you have 2 guys who are just pretty much backup quality guys, you could see kind of where this is going.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. And you know, I've always said that blue line, you've got to address that. I think they keep kicking the can down the road on that, and you know, it's killing them. You know, it's ending goaltenders' careers earlier than it should, to be honest. Who's out there available? I know Pietrangelo is available. I know Krug is available, but I also know the Hawks are kind of handicapped because of cap space. So are we looking to try to get one of those top-tier defensemen, or are we looking for a middle-of-the-road guy, which doesn't help your defense?
I know this is a regular theme with me, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they can't afford them. They don't have enough cap space. They've tied themselves up with top-end guys, you know, Taves and Kane, which, you know, they're the lifeblood of the team for a while, but at a certain point, you're going to have to let go of some of these core players, and you've seen it in other sports happen. You know, Bears, Cubs, Sox, Bulls, whatever. Players that, you know, are past their prime or whatever are overpaid. Sometimes they have to be let go or traded, and the fans don't like it, but it's just a reality in sports these days. And something like that's going to have to happen with the Blackhawks for them to be able to take on anybody of significant value on the market, because right now they're just going to have enough to maybe sign a legitimate starting goalie, possibly, or to, you know, they just signed Kubalik, which is nice. I saw that come along with Ticker at $3.7 million per year, which is that's a nice number for him. But other than that, it's going to be bits and pieces and depth players right now. Their defense kind of is what it is right now. And unfortunately, Ali Mata being traded away doesn't make them any better. Right. All it does is open up a little bit of cap space for them. So their defense right now, as it stands, is going to be worse than it was last year.
I mean, they're really counting on Ian Mitchell coming in, stepping in, and having a heck of a rookie season. You know, they're doing a lot of the if factors. You talk a little bit about that young defensive group they have. There are a lot of people that it seems like they're just hoping that someone can break out, really want a job, and perform well for them. Can you talk just a little bit about the young defensemen they have?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to. That's really their only choice at this point in time. I mean, unless you're picking up guys off the scrap heap, which that rarely ever works. So, I mean, Ian Mitchell, he's coming from Denver. He's got a high pedigree, you know, as far as, you know, he was an anticipated signing. He's a good player, but you saw this from Adam Boqvist stepping into the lineup last year. He was supposed to be one of those top prospects, recognized around the NHL as one of the top defensive prospects. But he steps into the NHL with a defense that's suspect and makes a lot of mistakes. That's what young players are going to do. And Ian Mitchell, if he steps into the mix, and it's debatable whether he will, because they have so many players on NHL contracts that they're not going to have room for him. So he probably, at this point, unless something significant happens, Ian Mitchell probably starts the year in Rockford, unless he really has an outstanding camp and makes some tough decisions. But they really have like about 7 guys already allocated to the NHL lineup. And then you got guys like Lucas Carlson, who's more of a defensive guy. You're not going to really notice him, on the ice. And it's good, because if you don't notice him, that means he's doing his job.
Right.
So, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they're kind of spinning their wheels in the mud. And it's going to be kind of like this for a couple of years with the way the cap is, because they don't really have a lot of options to clear up cap space other than taking away from the quality of their roster by trading someone like Brandon Saad or something like that, or trading a young defenseman, because they don't have any young forwards really worth anything other than Doc, and they're not going to trade him.
Right.
So, I mean, who do you do? Nicholas Beaudin, maybe you trade him, but who knows what you get for him. So they don't have a lot to offer other teams, unfortunately, to be able to bring something in. And then the second part is they don't have a lot of cap space to do anything either.
Guys, we're joined by Jeff Osborn from the Rink.com, talking a little Blackhawks hockey right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on Sports Zone Chicago. Is the seat getting hot for Stan? I mean, you're talking about we're cap strapped and with this or that, but he's the guy who got us here. All right, he's the guy who gave the contract to Seabrook, the no move clause. All right, so now he's getting paid for literally doing nothing. Taves and Kane, I get it. Those are guys you want. They want a no move clause, understandable. People like Seabrook, that contract's horrible. So the reason we're cashed or we're strapped to or up against the cap is partly because Bowman. Is the seat getting hot for him? Because how long are Chicago fans, especially Blackhawk fans, going to put up with a rebuild? Because this is a rebuild now. You don't go into a season with no goalie and expect to be a playoff contender.
I would think it's hot, and we've been speculating all along that his seat should be hot. I mean, you're 100% correct. They're in this position because it's Stan Bowman got him in this position. They held on to veterans too long. And this is where they're at. I mean, Taves is probably making maybe $3 million more than he should. Patrick Kane maybe making $1 million more than he should. Brent Seabrook's making almost double what he should. Yeah. I mean, $3.5 million for Brent Seabrook. Okay, you could get that. But $7 million for Brent Seabrook, I mean, that's just outlandish. And to a guy who may not see the ice. Now if he can't play, he may end up on long-term injured reserve, but that offers its own set of struggles and worries, because they have to be cap compliant day one of the season, which means they have to clear up $7 million before they can be cap compliant and start the season. So that's very technical with that. But I'm not a big fan of Stan. I mean, I thought he had a good summer last year. He did the best with what he had, with trying to bring in Mata, trying to bring in DeHaan, brought in Robin Leonard. Carpenter was an under the radar, depth signing that turned out really well. He did, they were injury prone. These guys all had risks that they took, on signing them, and they didn't ultimately really work out. But I think that bringing in 2 guys that are, middle pair to top pair defensemen with DeHaan, and middle pair to bottom pair defensemen with Mata, with barely giving up anything. Dominic Cahoon, who is, was let go and is a free agent right now and traded by 2 other teams. He did okay last year. So I was willing to, accept that maybe he was finally coming around. Unfortunately, he's done nothing since. He let Robin Leonard go for another team's garbage and a second-round pick. Leonard now signed 5 for 5 with Vegas. Almost was able to take him to a cup final, and they have no starting goalie. Now, you would have thought that they would have had some sort of plan with Corey Crawford. Yep. Maybe that was their plan. They were going to sign Corey Crawford to a couple of years for a cheap deal, and it didn't work out. So, their plan doesn't seem to be thought out very far ahead, especially with the goalie thing, because you got 3 backup goalies, and that's it. That's all you have right now. And unless something happens today, and even if something does happen today, they're going to have to really maneuver to get something to work out for this goalie situation. Yeah. The Kubalik thing, I mean, he's a restricted free agent, so they could have played hardball with him, even though he has arbitration rights. I don't think Stan's really done anything that exceptional. And we haven't even talked about the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's done anything that exceptional. I think he's been around too long. I think the timer's expired. They don't develop players through the system well at all, unless it's a guy that they draft and almost immediately ends up in the NHL.
Right.
They don't develop guys through the minor leagues at all whatsoever. I mean, they've tried really hard with Adam Boqvist, because if you fail with Adam Boqvist, like, that was like critical to your organization that he gets to the NHL and is a useful player. But other than that, you can't name any players that have been really significant in the Blackhawks organization that has come up through the system and been developed since in maybe Stan's entire career here.
I agree with that, Jeff, and I agree with pretty much your whole assessment on Stan. You know, you congratulate the guy for what he's brought. I'm wondering, I'm concerned, and hoping that this organization is not. I'm hoping this organization is not forcing the fans to be in a position where we have to send them a message as we did the Bulls and stop showing up at the United Center for Blackhawks games in order for them to get their act together. I feel that's where we're going. To talk about the young defenseman, I do like Dennis Gilbert. I like that he just goes out and beats up everybody on the ice. I still think there's a place for that in hockey. Stan has handcuffed himself. You didn't even mention the Andrew Shaw contract, which last year I thought was ridiculous. It was a guy who had a history of concussions and taking bad penalties. And, you know, I couldn't understand why you brought him back. I think Stan has done a terrible job the last 3 or 4 years. And, you know, we still haven't heard the full story on the McDonough, why he all of a sudden abruptly left. But truth be told, I thought they both should have went. Have we heard anything regarding McDonough, and how is the Blackhawks structure from the top kind of looking going into this season and beyond?
They've been really hush-hush about it. You know, I don't know if they're looking or not, to be honest with you. It was weird timing in what they did. And you kind of mentioned the bringing players back. That is this inside joke we have at the website is, who are they going to bring back next? What name? And those reek of a John McDonough move. Bring back a player a name that fans recognize, so that they'll go buy jerseys and they'll re-up their season tickets. It has nothing to do with what's going to happen on the ice. It just has, you know, these fans, and really, honestly, it should be insulting to fans.
It is.
That you think of them with this low. You know, at this low level, that they need to be flashed shiny things in front of their face that they recognize to be able to be interested in this team. It's just, it's ridiculous. And fans should really be offended. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, maybe Rocky said that, you know, Danny probably isn't going to stay in the position he's in. They may split it up between, you know, split that position up between like a hockey ops guy and a business ops guy, which is probably what they should do, because hockey ops is kind of a mess. Their scouting is okay, but they draft terribly. Now their players, you know, their player situations, their cap situations, it's all kind of a mess. And I don't know if it's contagious in the United Center or what, but you brought up a good point about the Bulls. Like, it seems like both these teams are doing the same thing. It's like it's like a boat with no rudder, just roaming around out in Lake Michigan, and whatever they hit. And if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, I don't know.
You know, I guess the other thing too that I think about when I think of this Blackhawks team is, you know, eventually we are going to face that day with Kane and Taves and Keith that we faced yesterday with Corey Crawford. Their legacies are cemented in this city. Along with Hossa. Let's not forget about Hossa, who unfortunately had to retire earlier. You know, they're going to all get a statue probably together. We're going to see all the sweaters hanging from the United Center at one point. But is there still something left in the tank with these players that if you get a couple of young players around them, they can still make a deep push? Because I know San Jose would do that often when they had Thornton and them guys were in their upper 30s, but they could still make a deep playoff run on you. Do you see that with this Blackhawks franchise, or are they too disorganized and too handcuffed?
I don't think they. I mean, again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think they don't have a robust enough system of players that can come in that can fill spots to be able to do something like that, and they can't afford to go out and get young talent. I mean, young talent is expensive unless you're getting a guy on an entry level contract or something like that, which teams aren't usually readily giving up. So you're either getting someone's cast offs, or you're getting someone's salary dump, or you're getting something like that. They're really stuck. If they had cap space, they could go out there and try to address it, but they don't have cap space. And to get cap space, you have to unload something of value to another team. And the Blackhawks have very little of value that other teams are going to want. And in the end of the day, Taze and Kane and Duncan Keith are all up in 3 years. They're not going to win a cup in the next 3 years. So what is your plan? Your plan has to be maybe give these guys a chance to win a cup somewhere else. And it's going to be unpopular with fans. Everyone's going to hate it. But unfortunately, it's going to be the best for the organization. It's going to be the best for the player to let some of these guys go. And who can you get the most for? Patrick Kane. I'm not advocating for trading Patrick Kane, but if you're going to get value for a player, yeah, there you go. If you're going to get value for a player, you're going to get value for Patrick Kane, and you might get a little value for Duncan Keith. Unfortunately, with Jonathan Toews making $10 million, you're going to have to probably retain salary to be able to get any kind of value, real value from it. You might be able to get some decent draft picks or something like that, but that's not going to pan out. That's not going to do anything in the short term. So, again, I keep saying they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're stuck in the mud. Their wheels are spinning. Like it's a ship with no captain. It's a big mess. It's a huge mess.
Man, I hear you, Jeff, and I know that day's coming, but do we just bring it sooner, make it sooner than later? Because what the White Sox did. They cast it off Chris Sale, Jose Quintana. They and I know Chris Sale didn't win us 2 Stanley Cups. I know he plays baseball, but he was
a good player, really good player.
Right.
But look what it got back. Look what it got us back. So you think the time is now? Because if you look at the Cubs did the same thing. The Cubs had some players. With Starlin Castro at the time was one of their better players that they shipped off. The White Sox, again, as I mentioned, and is it time to look at that and start getting some draft picks and some young players? Because this, as you said, we're not going to win a cup. This team is done as far as Stanley Cup aspirations. That's over. So
yeah, the window's shut.
Yeah, it's. I don't even think there's a house there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, do the Chicago thing.
Well, I mean, I wrote this in my article the other day about Corey Crawford. It's better off to trade a player a year too early than a year too late.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get your most value that way. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel bad, but in 2 years, it's not going to feel as bad. So, Stan should be open for business. Stan should say, I'm listening to all offers. That doesn't mean you're trading Patrick Kane. That doesn't mean you're trading Jonathan Toews. But all offers should be on the table. Like, if you give me a good enough offer, if we go to the flea market and you give me a good enough offer, I'm taking it. But, everything's got to be on the table at this point in time. There's a couple of players that you could probably skirt by getting rid of. Like I said, Saad. Again, it doesn't make your team any better. A guy that, a lot of people don't like to bring up because he's one of those fan favorite guys is Alex DeBrincat. He makes $6.5 million. The last 23 months or whatever of his career, he's only had 18 goals. He's making $6.5 million.
Yeah.
Like he's a goal scorer. He's paid to score goals, and he's not scoring goals.
I agree.
So you might want to dangle something like out. And again, the fans aren't going to like it, unfortunately. But this is a business, and the business is supposed to be winning and bringing in fans. And if you're just sitting there spinning your wheels with guys, bits and pieces, and depth players, then what are we doing here? What's anyone doing here? Why is anyone going to get, re-up their season tickets? And we've seen the news that many people are giving up their season tickets for the Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. They're begging people to give them money for season tickets. It's the media, the PR rush is out there. please, they're begging, give us money, give us money, give us money. And, no one's going to pay for this if you're putting a garbage product on the ice or on the court or on the field or whatever. So, unfortunately, too.
Cub fans will do that, but that's another story.
Well, yeah. I mean, some diehard Hawks fans will, but you saw that in the early 2000s. Fans were not going to the United Center to see the Blackhawks because they stunk. And that's what they're headed towards if they don't get out ahead of this. You have to get out ahead of it. You can't be behind. You can't be the guy who's reactionary. You have to be proactive, not reactionary. And Stan has not been proactive at all with any of this. He's hanging on to guys too long. He's signing guys to deals that are overinflated. And sure, the organization is now going to suffer because you wanted to hand Brent Seabrook over this obnoxious deal to repay him for 3 Stanley Cups. That's not how you do this. That is not if you want to give him money or whatever down the road after he retires, whatever, do it that way. Doing it in a contract that now handcuffs your organization because it's not able to be bought out. It's not able to be traded because no one's going to trade for that. And your best hope right now is that, he can be on long-term injured reserve to get a little bit of relief. That's terrible. That is fireable offense.
I agree.
Dereliction of duties. Yep. Hey, Jeff, great stuff, buddy. I appreciate it, man. I'll let you get back to checking out free agency as it just opened. Do me a favor, let everyone know where they can find you and your work online.
Yeah, all of our stuff, www.the-rink.com. We've got a free agent ticker up there right now. All of our social media too. I'm at Puck and Hostel, of course. Thank you for the compliment. I never get tired of hearing it. At the Rink official is our site account. At the Rink Shy is the Chicago Blackhawks side. We have several divisions for like Colorado Avalanche, Columbus Blue Jackets, Toronto Maple Leafs, and stuff like that. So, and At the Rinkcast is our podcast. We also do Facebook Lives. We also do, YouTube. We broadcast on YouTube, and then we have the podcast you can find on all of your podcast catchers.
Oh, great stuff, buddy. Great stuff. And hopefully we have some good news the next time we talk, because, man, this is disheartening over there on the west side with our Blackhawks. But we'll be in touch soon, man. Enjoy the great day. It's going to be 80 out there. Don't get stuck watching all free agency. Get out there, enjoy it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Guys, that was his Mr. Woo Woo Woo, Jeff Osborn from the rink.com. Great. I love having him on, man. He's I love his perspective, and it might just be time to trade people at their highest. You still can get stuff for Patrick Kane. I don't know about Taze, but you just got to do it. You see other organizations do it, and I think it's time for the Blackhawks to do it, and it'll be a cold day in hell when that happens.
That's gonna hurt.
I'm starting to get chills already because no.